All right, so on to our nuclear special today. Even I was totally blown away by the sheer terror in the eyes of the Aussie left and the renewables energy investors and lobbyists and PR people as they reacted to the radical proposal that, hey, gee, nuclear power might be a good, clean energy option. The discussion about nuclear has been around for ages, but the decision by the Liberal Party to grow a spine and push it harder has freaked out those whose political and business careers rely heavily on you buying into the climate change narrative and focusing totally on, let's face it, the very dirty and messy and very ugly energy alternatives of wind and solar. The king of the teals, the independents backed by the mysterious Climate 200 group, who are not a political party, do you hear me? They are independents, they are not a political party. They do not act like a political party, walk like a political party, talk like a political party, quack like a political party. No, they are independents. Anyway, the king of the teals, the founder is son of billionaire Robert Holmes à Court, Simon Holmes à Court, or Shack as we like to call him for short on social media. This week, Shack was so freaked out by the momentum that Peter Dutton's nuclear idea was gaining that he decided to come after a 17-year-old Queensland Year 12 student who supports it and was asking reasonable questions about it. That 17-year-old is Will Shackel, someone well known to many of you as the boy who ate up Energy Minister Chris Bowen for lunch on the ABC's Q&A show late last year. Let's take a look at a short clip from that episode of Q&A, shall we? This is the fun bit where Albo's Energy Minister Chris Bowen and Dutton's energy spokesman, Ted O'Brien, were discussing the cost of nuclear and, well, got schooled by the schoolboy.
$387 billion would be the cost to replace the coal-fired power in Australia with nuclear. That's an enormous amount of money. It's $25,000 per taxpayer if the taxpayer funded it, or indeed, those proponents would need to know they get their money back and they get it back from Australia.
Is that the cost? Do you agree?
Well, no, I don't, David. And I think the last time Minister Bowen released some economic modelling on Australia's energy system, it was to predict a $275 reduction in household power bills.
Well,
and we know where that went.
If that cost on nuclear power is wrong, what is the cost?
So it depends on which way you model it, David. You see, I think what's most important is to learn the lessons from overseas, where they say the most important method when it comes to an energy system planning is a total system cost. Because when we open up our bills at home, what we see is the total system cost in that bill. Now, it's only with that methodology that you can get the right mix of technologies, a balance of technologies in a grid to get the prices down.
Oh, sorry. Gee, you can see why they call Ted O'Brien ScoMo 2.0. He's about as inspiring and clear as they come, isn't he? Thank God the 17-year-old was there to teach him how to do media messaging and delivery.
Will is itching to get in here. Sorry, guys. Will.
The cost, this is clearly getting us nowhere. The cost of nuclear is clearly highly contentious. And you know what the best way to find out the cost of nuclear energy is? It's to lift the nuclear energy ban, because at that point, you can actually see nuclear reactors, what they will cost, because at this stage, no company is able to propose for nuclear reactors to be built in this country. And to what the Minister for Climate Change and Energy said about it being a distraction, well, look, we should have all options on the table. And what I would say is I'd bring out, this is the ban on nuclear energy. It's a single A4 piece of paper. And if the government was serious about reaching net zero and having a guaranteed path to net zero, well, they'd get rid of this. They'd get rid of this prohibition. And I think that is how you solve climate change. It's having all options on the table. That's how you end the climate wars. And I think it's particularly disappointing when I think everyone had great hope when the Prime Minister came out and said that this government would end the climate wars. And that's myself included. I was really optimistic for that. But when you look to a government which has prejudices against certain solutions, I think it's disingenuous to claim that the climate wars are ending. And, you know, I'm not going to let the coalition off it either, because, well, obviously the nuclear energy ban was introduced under the Howard government, like the minister said. I think this should be a uniting issue around nuclear. The facts are in, you can see the global evidence, and I think it's time that at very least Australia considers lifting the ban on nuclear energy.
17-year-old Will Shackel just taking a day off school there to appear on Q&A and teach the Minister for Energy and his counterpart from the opposition some basic economics. Just get rid of the ban and let the market work out what the best options are. Investors are smart. They do their homework. They won't invest if it won't work. And if they do invest and it doesn't work, then they lose the money, not us. Government meddling in markets is a nightmare. All we need to do is let the free market work its magic and just lift the ban. Then no meddling politician or bureaucrat gets to push their agenda on behalf of their energy-invested mates. I really wish more people in Australia actually understood basic economics and how the free market actually works and why the free market works. A great way to fill in the gaps in our education left by our failing school system, like I had to, is to pick up any book by the American economics legend Thomas Sowell, S-O-W-E-L-L, Thomas Sowell, especially the one called Basic Economics. It's just one moronic debate after another every week in Australia because we're a nation of people who think the government has to control everything and fix everything. No, the government usually stuffs things up. We need small, light-touch government to regulate things when the market fails or to prevent monopolies, one of the main failings of capitalism, which otherwise is an exceptionally good and fair economic system that creates massive collective wealth for people to share. But no, the government likes to meddle. And they tend to meddle because, to protect some mates who've got some investments in some other kind of technology perhaps, or protect some union mates perhaps, or give unfair advantage, dare we say it, to some. But of course, that's not happening in Australia, and I'd get sued if I said it was. So let me be very clear that I am not saying that. But that's the theory, anyway. Everyone in the wind and solar industry is totally nice. They are not like those evil fossil fuel people. The 17-year-old Aussie pro-nuclear energy activist Will Shackel asked this question on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, this week. The question was, why can't politicians explain why nuclear power is still illegal in Australia? Seems like a reasonable question to ask. Not according to our teal friend, Simon Holmes-a-Court. He reposted Will's question with this question of his own. Will Shackel, why do you keep saying Australia is the only country in the G20 that has banned nuclear? Germany and Italy are in the G20. Both have banned nuclear. The EU is in the G20. Multiple EU members have nuclear bans. Okay, fair comment, I guess, if it was true, but it isn't, as young Will pointed out to the middle-aged wind and solar fan. Let's take a look at the nutty, kooky, weird third world countries that have nuclear reactors and nuclear energy. Australia is the only member of the G20 with a ban on nuclear power, Will responded. Germany does not have a blanket ban on nuclear power. The construction of new nuclear power plants was made illegal in 2002. Germany could theoretically restart their nuclear power plants again legally, and many people are calling them to do so. They sure are. Germany has suffered a massive energy cost and supply crisis ever since. We'll come back to that in a moment. Will Shackel went on. Number two, Italy does not have a ban on nuclear power. 2 referendum results indirectly led to the destruction of the industry. And Will's point number 3 in his tweet, the European Union, not the individual countries, is a member of the G20, and they do not have a ban on nuclear power. So I made a comment to Simon that he seemed a little tense about this talk of nuclear power for a guy who seems to care so very, very much about the horrible planet-destroying effect of climate change. And he replied like this. Oops, not happy, Jan. Oh well, never mind, Simon. I'll give you another chance. There is a chair right beside me here in this set. You can come and sit in it any Friday you like, and I will let you make the case for why we should keep the nuclear ban. Absolutely free, no charge. You just have to get yourself here, or we can do it on Zoom. And I'll also invite Will into the studio. I'm sure you're not afraid of debating a 17-year-old, so, be my guest. Open invitation, anytime you like. This show is totally open to hearing you out. Fat chance that'll happen. There are some smart people on the left side of politics still, though, who are able to debate sensibly. One such person is this follower of mine on Twitter called Mike Lamb, who writes, "As someone who is nominally on the left, the nuclear issue is the biggest reason why I don't trust the Greens on the environmental issue. Australia has some of the least risks in having a nuclear plant. If Ukraine can still operate 15 reactors currently, surely we can too." Well said, Mike. In fact, lots of countries have nuclear power and use it safely and effectively.